Hello, welcome to Liberatory Imagination. I'm your host, Tiffany, and today I want to talk about the fear of being misunderstood. I think it's something that is very human, and most of us have a different type of sensitivity towards being misunderstood. And when I was in my 20s, I got really into the Enneagram because the Enneagram was really popular in the Christian world, which I have now stepped away from. But the Enneagram really exposed a core wound of mine, which is wanting to be seen as unique. I discovered that I was an Enneagram number 4, which is the artist profile. Fours want to be seen as different and unique, being recognized that you're living life in a different way. I'm going to go on a tangent on Enneagram for a second, but I'm going to come back around to talk about the fear of being misunderstood and how it all relates together. The Enneagram basically locates childhood core wound of yours and sees your life as the spectrum of wanting to heal from those core wounds and also knowing that we hold multitudes. And so with number 4, what fours need to know is that you are inherently worthy and different, and that the value doesn't come from doing things different compared to other people. Because I remember learning that and I'm like, oh my gosh, that is so me. I don't really care if people agree with me, but I do want them to acknowledge that I have a different perspective. And part of the inner child healing and the healing in general is realizing that it doesn't matter how people see me, whether they think that I am run of the mill, I am a norm core person, or if I am special and that I am so unique in my approach to XYZ. And sometimes I do revisit Enneagram because I think that it is helpful to know how much we shape our personalities, shape our behavior in ways that we think will help us be more safe, more lovable, more secure. After acknowledging that, we can then step back, really nurture ourselves, being like, I am lovable, I am worthy without all these external things, and I can make decisions, go into relationships. I can move through the world with confidence and not from a lack. From what I learned, the goal of Enneagram is integration. So there are 9 numbers and they all look like different things, but really we are a mix of all these different types of human wounds. The goal is to integrate so that we grow past and through those wounds and we are able to mature out of these categories where I'm not super defined by having to prove that I am unique, having to prove that I'm special, and instead see the skills and my lived experience as ways to be more creative. So it's a beautiful thing to think about new ways to live, new ways to create. I can funnel those inspirations and my strengths, not because I want to prove that I'm different, but so I can live into my life fully. Okay, coming back to the fear of being misunderstood. So being seen as unique being one of the ways that I've coped for many years. It's interesting with my relationship with being misunderstood because on one hand, I want people to see me as other, to be different, to be not part of the herd or part of how everyone does XYZ. But on the other hand, I want people to see me in a way that is accurate to how I see me, where it's like, I want you to see me as unique, but I also want you to see me as really creative and innovative and a risk taker and not a weirdo. And what my creativity and art has taught me through the process of healing and creating is that I have to be okay with being misunderstood. If I don't want to betray myself, I need to release how people perceive me. And how I cultivated and learned that is when I sat down to do art. I have done many art projects publicly. I continue to come back to this place where I sit down and I write something, I paint, I create this piece of art. I'm at this intersection. If I let myself and my art and my work be seen, there are 2 main paths. One path is I will feel very, very anxious. I will run through how people perceive me. I'm going to be really attuned to the likes, the comments, and I'm looking for a type of affirmation that people understand me. People understand why this is important to me. People understand how much has gone into the art. And I'm looking for that feedback of like, okay, yes, I feel so acknowledged and seen. The other path is letting go of the visibility, letting go of how people will see the art and see me, and if they relate, if they don't relate, if they agree, if they don't agree, letting go and accepting that they can get it totally, totally off. They can perceive me and my work and think, wow, what a conceited person. Wow, she is so selfish. Oh my God, like, how dare she? Or she's wrong. And accepting it because I know why I'm showing up and I know why I'm doing this. And getting a person to understand and see me is not the goal. And that path has a lot less anxiety. The energy is a lot closer to the ground and the fulfillment is much higher. For context, I did this art project that was 6 years long, and I published art and writing every single week under a yearly theme. I got to really practice my internal posture as well as my practice in a very live way. And sometimes I did this path and sometimes I did this path, but I gave myself the data of like, okay, how do I want to feel? It's like going down this road, not knowing that I'm going down this road where it's really for people or performance, and then recognizing, ooh, that feels bad. My body feels really tense. I don't want to do this. Especially near the end, I decided to quit. I do not want to feel like this, not towards my own art practice. And I felt how freeing it is to have actually the thing I'm afraid of, people not respecting me because of what I said, people not getting it, people having feelings that are negative about it coming back to me, and I'm still feeling confident and being like, yeah, totally. You get to think whatever you think. And as I'm reflecting and kind of checking in with where I am right now in my mid to late 30s, I can locate that I'm not where I want to be. I think at this point, when people are like, I totally disagree with you, or you got this wrong, my instinct is, let me see. Let me see who is speaking because I don't respect you, and what you think and how you disagree with me totally affirms me because I wouldn't want someone like you to even agree with me. Anyways, there's like this Leo fire in me of wanting to instantly belittle someone who doesn't appreciate me. It's not exactly where I want to stay, but I do think that in the maturity trajectory, I can see I'm getting to a place where it's getting to be less reactive and less based on superiority and more to the point of quiet confidence. Even though there's nothing wrong with bigger fiery emotions, which I have them. I've been digesting this idea of separating being truly loved with being truly seen and understood, which is challenging because in order for me to feel really loved, I want to feel seen. I want to feel truly known. I think that the truth is no one, and even me, can really see me in my multitudes accurately. My closest friends, my closest loved ones can see many different aspects and many different facets, but they will never know me on a holistic, true, honest level. And I can barely meet myself there on the daily. I feel like I can only meet myself one facet at a time, and as I'm growing older, I'm learning to give more space so that I can hold more faces of me at the same time. I've written this in my Substack before, but I have to quote Akwaeke and Emeze. They write, for people who live in the knuckles with 67 faces, it's not really about pretending to be people you're not. It's more about having faces for all the things you already are. Blurred spaces, trickster mobility. And I love that. I love that quote because sometimes we do have to pull up certain faces and certain facets of us, depending on who we're with, depending on our environment. And yes, that could be a coping mechanism, but also it could just be such an adaptive way of living that might not exactly be like a mask where it's not true. It's just a different facet of me. And I'm maturing that part of me that really wants to be fully seen and fully loved and fully known by people. And instead turning that energy here towards me of like, have I taken the time to fully see, fully love, fully know all the parts of me? The parts of me that I am proud of, the parts of me, but also the parts of me that are in the shadows, the parts of me that are in my peripheral, the parts of me that I have really shut in a cabinet. What about those parts of me? How am I spending time to know and hear and love? And the ways that I'm looking externally is exactly a mirror of what I am asking and wanting from myself. And I want it to start here. Although there's always this thing in my brain every time I say and think that it starts here, is in Care Work, Dreaming Disability Justice by Leah Lakshmi. They challenged that idea of sometimes you can still learn to love and be loved deeply when you hate yourself. They go deep into the journey of disability and also the relationship with substances. I still stand by it, especially for my own journey, that a lot of things that I'm looking from the outside, I'm asking from myself. And I think that community is a beautiful place to do both, to learn how to look in the mirror, but also have interdependence and places of release and relief and tension where we get to work through things in loving relationship with one another so that we can all get a little closer to where we want to be, so that we can get a little closer to the world we want to build together. Yeah, I want to mature and grow my approach of being loved. Just in the same as in the last post, where I'm talking about maturing the dreams of my future to match where I am and to continually cultivate and change and pivot and shift that dream as much as I'm pivoting and growing and evolving in the present. Kind of zooming into the micro of life and relationships, I have noticed within myself. I've noticed that I get so activated in conversations with my partner when I feel like things are unfair. And I think that if you have been in any sort of relationship, especially romantic relationship, you get it. But the thing in me that has this like very strong sense of injustice and big feelings about when things aren't fair on a systemic level also sometimes can shoot down to a very very detailed way, where if I feel like I'm not being heard or perceived correctly, it just dysregulates me a lot. And it happened recently, and I was like, okay, I didn't like that. I didn't like the threat of being misunderstood and misperceived and therefore not loved. And obviously, after tension, things are a little more clear, but I'm like, wow, okay, I think I need to tend this part of me a little bit more. I think that I need to make sure that I am understanding myself, that I am taking that time to see myself thoroughly, because that heightening of emotion gave me a lot of information. And it was good for me to talk through that with my partner and being like, look, okay, whoops. I want to work on not peaking and getting so fiery so fast. I want to work on slowing that down. And also, this is my desire. I do want to be understood well. And, we both agreed next time I'm going to ask more questions and be more inquiring about how she perceives me and having more curiosity instead of just leaning into all of my defenses and all of my guardedness coming up really hot. Yeah, it's humbling for me to recognize these things in myself and be like, I'm not perfect. Sometimes I like to joke that I'm perfect, but there are so many ways that I have to heal and to grow. And that is hand in hand with being misunderstood. Like after all those years of the help with art and also with my relationship with the public, I still can find so many pieces where I am afraid of being misunderstood and therefore not being loved. And my brain knows, okay, we don't need to be fully seen in order to be loved. I feel like all those elements are fragments, and I'm trying to like figure out how do I embody the complexity and the humanness of being in relationship with other humans with their multitudes. It's really hard, but it's so worth it because love is what roots us. I write in my Substack all the time. It is the thing that I am rooted to that allows me to be brave, that allows me to be steadfast in going towards the North Star where there are no prisons, there is no police, where everyone has clean water, has food, where we aren't depending on carceral systems to have order, and tying in the fear of being misunderstood into leftist spaces. I was watching this excellent TikTok by this creator named Lex, who was talking about how embarrassing it is to witness the protesters outside an ICE detention facility in Portland, where basically what happened is that the people organized enough to break down the barrier or some gates. And after they broke through it, they ran in, and then they're like, they didn't know what to do. And they stood there. And then within a couple minutes, the gates were chained together again. And how embarrassing. How embarrassing. And Lex talks about the performance of protesting where there is no clear ask. There is no clear direction, organization of, okay, so break through that gate. But what happens after? Because you didn't think through that. And it's like, who is that for? How is that helpful for anyone? It's definitely not helpful for people who are detained. Yeah, and how embarrassing is that? That is not the kind of leftist that I want to say is my comrade. And I don't want to be that kind of leftist where it's empty. Like, how is that different than a liberal? One of the telltales of being driven by the fear of misunderstanding is performance, ironically. If we want to control how people perceive us as the good guys, then there's performance. If it's motivated by perception and fear. At the end of the day, it is a selfish motive. The motive isn't for the people in the ICE detention center to be centered, for there to be real life, tangible change for people who are imprisoned and who are being abused. But the motivation is being seen as someone who is down for the cause. But what I always say is that time will tell. Time will show the true motivations of people. It shows up in important moments where it's time to push, but it also shows in the small details of life of how are you in relationship with the people around you? How are you in relationship with your money? How are you in relationship with yourself? All those things are very, very connected and something that I am such a deep believer in, especially since I love thinking about the nervous system, is that we learn to have all the tools to regulate, to come back down, to find our way back home to our bodies, not so that we're regulated all the time, not so that we can feel at ease all the time, but so we can actually make decisions wisely with our bodies and our mind when we are under threat, when other people are under threat, when we need to show up for our neighbors. Regulation isn't just to feel good. Regulation is so that we are tapped into our bodies and we're tapped into reality, whether it is threats or a moment of safety, accurately. So for those of us who are thinking about how do we get to our North Star, how do we build a liberated world, we have to keep an eye on this piece about our relationship with perception and being understood. It is so important to know what we're rooted in because when we are met in a moment where the person in front of me is misunderstanding me and is misconstruing my words or my actions, how strong am I to my integrity? How strong am I to my North Star, to the world that I want to build alongside of other comrades? How strong is it? Because that moment will tell me if I am easily swayed, if my system is easily put in a place of fawning or people pleasing. The goal is for me to be so rooted in love and integrity and in clarity. When backlash happens, I'm able to listen with wisdom. I'm able to take in criticism and being called in a grounded way. I'm also able to decipher, does this person, what they're saying, do I have to consider it with more gravity? Or is it something where I can be like, thank you for expressing yourself. We disagree. Move on. That is so much easier said than done. But back to art, I think that it is such a beautiful container to practice this piece, a very safe container to practice being okay with being misunderstood by other people. And accepting that that is inherently part of the vulnerability of creating and releasing it into the world. It is the vulnerability of speaking from a truthful, honest place and letting it go. I never want to communicate to manipulate someone or to control anything about them. I communicate because it's true for me. I communicate because I know what my integrity and what my North Star is. And I expand from there. For my ending question, what does liberatory imagination spark in me today? It sparks in me this vision of my future self who is so confident and grounded and secure in herself and in what she is moving towards. She has a sense of stillness to her presence that is very loud. When she speaks, there is authority in it, not from a place of control, but from a place of deep, deep love. And she knows how to express herself in the bigness, in the fire, in the anger, in the rage, in the sadness, with all of the spectrum of emotion in a way that is so accountable to herself, in a way that is so deeply connected to her own dignity and also connected to her demand of dignity for other people. It sparks in me this effort and this path that I hope to share with a lot of people. I want to see and witness everyone, my loved ones, but also the broader community in really fine-tuning integrity, fine-tuning walking forward with honesty and bravery versus performance. I want to walk forward with so many people, not towards this elusive definition of perfection, but being strategic and being organized in making tangible ways towards the goal we want to see. I really hope and pray for adaptivity where we know where we want to go, but we have to be adaptive of like, okay, protesting really worked in this season for this purpose with this goal. Now we are seeing that that's not what's needed. So, how can we pivot? How can we continue to evolve and refine and also learn from other people? There are so many people through history who have been right here, who have been in the belly of the beast, who have had their own revolutions. There is so much to learn, and we need to keep on learning every single day and be diligent. It takes diligence to have integrity. It takes diligence to be attuned to ourselves on a micro level and a macro level. But yeah, those are some of my thoughts. And please let me know what you think and what your relationship with being misunderstood is. And I would love to hear. All right, thanks for tuning in. More from me next time.